Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Get Your Happy podcast. I am your host, Tanya, and we are going to switch it up a bit. We're going to switch it all around. So I actually want to title this Love Taught Me, since it is Valentine's Day, love weekend, and I know everyone have a lot of things in mind. As you can see, I have the vibe with the roses and the candles. If you're watching me on YouTube, if you're listening to me on SoundCloud or Apple iTunes, there's a vibe. We have the rose petals, we have the candles. It is the energy of love. And so with that, I would like to extend this, just switch up this actual episode and extend this space for organic conversations. I've been pondering doing something a little different, and so this is going to be different, and I hope you guys like it because I would like to do more of these. And so organic conversations, this is just us getting close. So turn me up, all the way up. And if you're watching me on YouTube, come in close, come in very close. And so I get to share all things of what love taught me through the lens of society, through the lens of, parental figures and guardians, through friends, and past partners. Yes, I'm going to dig in a little bit and let you get to hear a little bit more about me and my thoughts on what love taught me. In listening to this, I just want you to be inspired, and I want you to think about, yes, what has love taught me? Whether it's self, through past partners, through society, community, parental figures, and legal guardians. So let's get started. If you've listened to my podcast before, normally I like to say grab something to write with and something to write on. This is nothing like that. You don't have to worry about writing anything down, only if you, unless you want to, then I don't want to stop you from that. But if you are listening to me on any of these platforms, make sure you are being interactive. Communicate with me. If you're watching me on YouTube, make sure you take a minute and subscribe. And remember, if we're talking about love, then love this video. If you think that you're going to, if you find it useful. So love the video, like it, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that way you will hear more of my content and the work of the videos that I put out. And if you're listening to me on SoundCloud and Apple iTunes, make sure that you are subscribing so that way you are aware of when I am posting. So let's talk about it. Love taught me. Woo! Love taught me, guys. So how this is going to be structured is I have a bowl of Post-its. If you know me, or if you follow me on Instagram at Tanya's Art of Happy, you know that I have a thing for Post-its. So I have my Post-its here. Basically, I'm going to, I have questions already pre-written here. I'm just going to pull them out and we're just going to communicate. That's what we're doing in this episode. Organic conversations. So I'll just get started. So, one of the questions fell on the floor. Maybe that's the one we answer first. All right. Excuse me. So the first question, what did your last relationship teach you? Woo, okay, we're just gonna start right into it. All right. So my last relationship, what did it teach me? I think there's layers to that, as it is most of the questions. So my last relationship, it taught me a lot. This individual has taught me spirituality. I think I wouldn't be where I am today without it. I think through the process of the going our different routes, I needed to know spirituality in order to make that transition, to make the move onto my new journey. So yes, it taught, this person taught me spirituality. It taught, that relationship taught me self-worth. I think, there is a, oh goodness, we're into it. All right. And I wrote the questions. So yeah, the relationship taught me, goodness, self-worth, being able to, identify my wholeness, my truth, what mattered to me, and, what I wish to tolerate, what I, don't want to tolerate, and not necessarily within that relationship, within my community, within my family, within my friendships. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than just that relationship. So I think, it taught me, forgiveness, and even though you're forgiving, you're not accepting of anything that can possibly trigger. I think it also taught me that, to go back, in other past relationships and family ships, partnerships, to go back and figure out what could have been done differently, or how could something had been handled, and how to move forward. So that's what that taught me. All right. So I actually have a list of quotes as well that I thought would be great, because again, love doesn't look one way. And that's what I really want to take away in this episode, in these organic conversations, is that love does not look one way. We have, love within ourselves, first. We have love with our family, our partnerships. We have it, with our friends, with our pets. So it doesn't look one way. And so the quotes, I want to, so I'm going to have to put this one in the show notes. She did a very famous TED Talk. I cannot remember the title. I do apologize. I'll put that in the show notes. So no matter what platform you're listening or watching me on, I will have that down below. I ask that you please watch the TED Talk. It's been so... the TED Talk was so good. It has been used, and I believe Beyonce used it in one of her, I believe Flawless. I believe she used it in there, and then Kendrick Lamar. I think once I read it, I think it'll kind of ring a bell. But again, it will be in the show notes. So it says, we teach girls to aspire to marriage, but not to be successful, because it can potentially threaten the man. And I think that is very accurate. I think it is very accurate. I think, in the midst of love, we, yes, I think we do, in previous generations, we've taught, daughters and young women that, yes, in order to reach ultimate love, marriage is going to be it. You want to win that person over. And I think, there is more to that. Whether it's career, and she says, we don't teach, competitive, or about, work ethic and morals. We don't teach those things. And so, the main thing we think, we've made it, quote unquote, is that, that is with marriage. And, or to win over someone, then we are achieving our ultimate happy, and, there's love outside of that. So I think that was a good phrase, question that she posed within that TED Talk. And again, if you want to hear more about that, I'll have that down below. So next, we're going to continue going right into the bowl here. The next question: how was love demonstrated to you growing up? Woo! Ask yourself that. I think that's great. So love was demonstrated to me from my mother. I believe love was demonstrated in the sense of gifts. I think that was definitely the way my mother showed love, is through gifts. And so, I think that, had some impact on on me as an adult. However, I think your love language can change. And so I used to think that, ooh, we getting candid. All right. So I used to think that that was a way of receiving love. However, again, just like they say, kind of like attention span, where that attention span can be very short is when we accumulate all these things, then we look for something else. And I think I've kind of steered away from the idea of gifts. At least I was never a person that really, it wasn't the ultimate for me. And so, I think it did have some sort of, impression. I think there's something, it doesn't hit me in a way of stimulation. I think outside of that, it's like, okay, what else? I enjoy connections, mental connection and stimulation. And so, yeah, outside of that, I think more. So, yeah, I believe my mother, she connected, was demonstrated in a way of, gift giving. And for my father, so with my stepfather and my father, my stepfather, he was, he worked all the time. And so, he kind of, I found him doing like double shifts. And so I, as a young girl, I was more in charge of, my brother. And so with his absence, I believe that kind of translated in a different way growing up. So, and I know you're probably saying, well, how is that demonstrated? And I think it was demonstrated in a way that there was a space of yearning, not just necessarily in partnerships, within, friendships, looking for that quality time. So it kind of worked out in the opposite way. So yeah, it was. Now, when I think of them together, how they interacted together, my mother enjoyed the idea of spontaneity, keeping adventure, keeping fun within the house. And so that was also demonstrated to me. And I think that is something that I do carry on within my friendships, within my work too, because I do like the idea of getting that spark of creativeness and being able to work off of that energy of spontaneity. So yeah, I think I hope I answered that the best way. But yeah, I think, yeah, my parents did kind of demonstrate a way of, my mother, like I said, gifts. My father it was through his absence that it kind of taught me how I react. So that's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to go back and journal about it and come back and talk to you guys again. We'll do that's another episode of Organic Conversations. So I'm going to go back and dig in the bowl here. It says, go through another one. I can do that. What is your love language? So I think I pretty much answered this. Well, halfway I did. So I talked about previously, I thought it was through gifts. And so I believe right now, because again, I do believe that it changed, and I did go back a couple months ago, and it's like, I'm just curious, did it change for me? And I believe it does. And so I was actually speaking to someone, and we said, food should be in there. So anyone who is unfamiliar, who's listening and do not know their love language, so there's 5. And I'll put a link to that information below as well in the show notes. So the 5 love languages, you have quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, and acts of service. I believe mine has now changed to acts of service. It used to be words of affirmation, but I think due to experiences, I believe it changes. And so I believe mine now is acts of service along with quality time. So yeah, I think acts of service, it's, now for me, because like I said, it used to be words of affirmation. I think now it's all about action for me, and what type of service you're willing to create around me, the effort. And that's the way I look at it. So comment below, or respond back, and I want to know what yours is, and how did you identify it? Besides, do you if you've taken the test, do you think it's accurate? And yeah, and if it may have changed. So let's see. All right, we're going through another. So, ooh, I love this one. So it says, how do you define intimacy versus love? Oh my goodness. So it took me a while, and I don't know why I wrote this down. I don't know how I came to writing it down, but with intimacy, I believe what I've, after kind of journaling it out, intimacy, I believe it's an action, and it doesn't just happen with a partner. Intimacy happens, with yourself. I believe it's an action with yourself. I believe it's an action with, your family. It's an action with your friends, with your community. And it's being able to take up that space and create whatever it is within that love. I believe love is the emotion, and then intimacy becomes the action that you create. Let me know if you have a different explanation, what it means to you. I'm very curious. But yeah, when I first came up with that question, I said, wow, that's different. And it took me a minute. I had to ponder on it. But I believe, for me, intimacy is the action created and stimulated from the love, the emotion, the feeling. And again, not just with a partner, but with your friend, with, as soon as you step outside, was that intimate connection that you're creating with the earth, with your community, with your hobby. Because again, love is, we love our hobbies. So yeah, I think that was pretty interesting. So another quote. Let's take it in a male's perspective. So we have Jim Carrey, right? When you're ready for beautiful things to happen in the world, as you walk through two choices, excuse me, I take that back. Beautiful things in the world, as you walk through two doors today, you will only have two choices, that of which is love or fear. Choose love, and don't let it turn you away from your playful heart. I love that. As we all know, Jim Carrey, actor and Oscar winner, amazing individual. And I think it's clever that he used this scale of love and fear, because again, we do have a choice. And when anything and everything in life, choose love. And I love that he's saying, kind of lean into that the playful heart, which is our inner child. And if we ignore that, we're not being fulfilled, and we're not, creating the best work, or we're not, if we think of, what do we say when, someone's always working and always being dedicated and, constantly, in tunnel vision, you get bored, you get burnt out. So lean into the playful heart. You know the words. I love it. All right. So, how do you love yourself? That is amazing. So how do I love myself? I believe it not just translate in, getting your nails done and, getting facials and massages. I believe it shows up in everything that you do. It's how you speak, what you read, what you choose to consume, the conversations you choose to, participate in, the activities you choose to participate in, how do you, take care of your body, volunteer, how you show up for the community, show up for the world, show up for others, how you love your spouse if you're in a relationship, how do you, love your friends. I think all that matters, and it translates in a way that you love yourself. That is how I see it. And so for that, I choose to do everything with love and compassion and integrity, high standards. I think when we see that, those are all contributing factors to you loving yourself. So I choose to, educate myself on, what's in my, food, what's in my, household cleaning products, what's on my bookshelf, what I'm watching. So I think, as long as you choose any and everything with love, then that is how you love up on yourself. You radiate, right? All right, so we're gonna dig it a little more. Here it is. Let's see. Ooh. Ha ha ha. Here's a good one. What has society taught you about love? If you're listening to this podcast, this is the one question I want you to dig into and ask yourself. So I think society has taught me, darn those Disney movies. So growing up, I always, watched those films. And so I think, someone hit me with a question. They mentioned, after watching all of those films, all of those Disney films, and we see the happily ever after, we don't know what happens after happily ever after. The dwarves, what are they doing with Snow White? Are they still helping her? Or what about the glass slippers? Does she get more glass slippers? We don't know what happens at the end. And so, I was like, no, you just ruined it for me. And so I believe society has taught me that love looks one way. Growing up, I thought love looked one race, one class, one style of, relationship. And so we don't get to see the love when it comes to illness, when it comes to infidelity, when it comes to bankruptcy, foreclosure, moving. We don't see that. And when I say when it looks one way, for me growing up, I think society didn't paint a picture for, interracial dating, same-sex couples, a paraplegic, and what that looks like, someone battling, addiction. We don't know what that looks like. And so it took a minute for me to just say, wow, society messed it up. No. So, but yes, that's what society taught me. And so I had to go back and say, wow, no, this works. And I see this, and, this actually, these people are making it work. And so, society taught me that it looks one way when actually it doesn't. Yeah. So we're going to go into another quote here. And I love this, and this is by my favorite. You guys know my favorite, Ayala Van Zandt. It says, when you need to be loved, you take love wherever you can find it. When you are desperate to be loved, feel love, know love, you seek out what you think love should look like. Beautiful. Absolutely. I believe, in order for us to, have love, because we think it's separate from us, when in fact we are just that. We are love. We embody it. When we walk outside, we see it in, the community, within our animals, within, the clouds shifting, the birds singing, the flowers blooming, it's all around us. And so we must embrace it. It's not outside of us. It's within us. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Well, we got one left in the bowl. And so I am going to spill beans. Let's see what it is. Ah. Nope, that's, oh, okay. All right. All right. Describe your first love. Oh my gosh. You guys. All right. So I'll take you down memory lane. 6th grade. It's Valentine's Day. And there was this kid. There was this kid named Matt. And I just adored him. He had this brunette hair that came about here. Straight hair. He had braces. He had the olives, that just deep tan. And every day I just swooned and I was like, I got to